Test, test.
I will call this Tigard City Council and Town Center Development Agency and Local Contract Review Board meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Snyder.
Here.
Youth Councilor Turley. Here. Council President Goodhouse.
Here.
Councilor Newton.
Here.
Councilor Lube.
Here.
Councilor Anderson.
Here. All right, all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Councilor staff, any non-agenda items?
We have none, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll move on to public comment. Is there any follow-up to previous public comments?
No, Mr. Mayor.
And do we have the sign-up sheet? All right, no one signed up to speak. Is there anyone that would like to speak during the public comment portion of our meeting tonight? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is used for routine items such as approval of minutes, receipt of council meeting calendars, proclamations, appointments to boards and committees, and approval of contracts or intergovernmental agreements with partner agencies. Detailed information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. Approval may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Anyone may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and then separate action. Tonight we are considering approval of ODOT local agency agreement for ARTS, all road traffic safety programs, and 99W streetlights.
I move for the adoption of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
So moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? All right. Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to item number 4. Consider resolution appointing Town Center Advisory Commission members. Mr. Fairley. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the City Council. My name is Sean Farrelly. I'm the Redevelopment Project Manager, and tonight's staff is recommending approval of the resolution that will appoint Town Center Advisory Commission members. And for those at home or in the audience, the Town Center Advisory Commission, or TCAC, is the advisory body to the Town Center Development Agency on urban renewal issues. So the Mayor's Appointment Advisory Committee recommended that current members Renette Heyer and Kate Rogers be reappointed, and Elise Shearer be appointed as voting members to fill terms that expire December 31st, 2022. That Terry Karen Keith, who's here tonight, and Caitlin Prentice be appointed as non-voting alternate members. And those terms will go through December 31st, 2020. And that Justin Watson be appointed as a non-voting ex officio member to fill a term that will expire December 31st, 2020. So Terry is here tonight. Is anyone else?
Just Terry?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I
Is there a
move to
motion?
I move to approve resolution number 19-42.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution 19-42. A resolution reappointing Renette Heyer and Kate Rogers and appointing Elise Shearer as voting members of the Town Center Advisory Commission. Terry Karen Keith and Caitlin Prentice as non-voting alternate members, and Justin J. Watson as a non-voting ex officio member.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution number 19-42 is adopted unanimously, and anybody that is present that was just appointed, I would love to come and shake your hand and give you a pin and sign your pin. All right, we'll move on to item number 5 on the agenda, which is to consider a resolution appointing Tiger Transportation Advisory Committee members. Mr. Roth.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Councilors. My name is Dave Roth, and I'm the Senior Transportation Planner for the City of Tigard. I'm here tonight to introduce a resolution to reappoint and appoint members to the Tigard Transportation Advisory Committee. The Tigard Transportation Advisory Committee advises staff and elected officials on a broad range of transportation issues impacting the city. And we have some openings to fill on the committee. So we have Lindsay Wise, Alan Eckert, Richard Keast, Holly Coons, Serge Killingsworth, and Sarah Serrata, who were interviewed on November 14th, 2019 by the Mayor's Appointment Advisory Committee. Staff recommends that you approve a resolution reappointing Lindsay Wise and appointing Alan Eckert, Richard Keast, and Holly Coons as voting citizen representatives whose term will expire on December 31st, 2022, and appointing Serge Killingsworth and Sarah Serrata as non-voting alternate members whose terms will expire December 31st, 2022. And I'd just like to recognize that Lindsay, Richard, and Sarah are here tonight.
All right, well, be prepared to come up and receive a pin. Is there a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 19-43.
I'll second that.
City Recorder, please read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution 19-43, a resolution reappointing Lindsay Wise as voting member, appointing Alan Eckert, Richard Keast, and Holly Coons as voting members, and appointing Serge Killingsworth and Sarah Serrata as non-voting alternate members of the Tiger Transportation Advisory Council.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, resolution number 19-43 is passed unanimously. Thank you all. Congratulations. All right, we will move on to item number 6, consider resolution appointing planning commission members. Mr. McGuire.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Councilors. I'm Tom McGuire. I'm the Assistant Community Development Director, and I'm here with the resolution appointing planning commission members. The Mayor's Appointment Advisory Committee met on November 18th. We have 2 open voting positions, and we have interviews, and the committee has recommended selecting Jamie Watson to serve a 2nd term on the commission, Alexandria Quinones to move from a alternate to a voting member, and Craig Shook to be appointed to the open non-voting alternate position.
Okay.
I move to approve resolution number 19-44.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution 19-44, a resolution appointing Jamie Watson and Alexandria Quinones as voting members of the Tigard Planning Commission and appointing Craig Shook as a non-voting alternate member.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Oh, what did you want to say, Mr. McGuire? Oh, okay. thought you had said something.
Oh, well, I was waiting for you
Oh, okay.
to finish your vote. but
Got it. Okay.
I'll let you know that two of them are here.
Okay, perfect. I was going to ask you that. So, okay, so resolution number 19-44 has passed unanimously, and please do share.
Alexandre Canonis and Craig Shook are here.
All right, please step forward.
I just want to say to everyone who got appointed, thank you so much for your service, and we're lucky to have you as community members.
I was just going to say the same thing. We're lucky to have so many people in our community willing and interested to step up, so thank you very much.
All right, we will move on to item number 7 on the agenda, which is a legislative public hearing considering amendments to Tigard Municipal Code 7.58, conduct on city property. I will open the public hearing. Hearing procedures are that anyone that wants to offer testimony may do so. There was a sign-up sheet at the front of the room earlier. It's now at my desk. If anyone wants to speak, they will be allowed to. I see no one has signed up. We'll check in a minute if anyone does want to offer testimony. And staff report. Commander McDonald, good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Jamie McDonald. I'm a commander with the police department. We are here tonight to request that City Council consider amendments to Tigard Municipal Code 7.58 regarding rules of conduct on city property. The reasons we want to do this is because there are some wordings in the current code that is civil and criminal, and it's caused us some problems when we're trying to apply it. The revisions clarify the exclusion process to better provide guidance to our police officers and to the court as to how the process works. And there are numerous housekeeping changes within the code that update language, make it easier to read, delete outdated provisions, one of which is the prohibition of camping on all city property, which actually has been held unconstitutional via case law. So essentially that is the summary of the changes for the code. And what staff recommends is that council adopt the recommended changes that you have before you in Tigard Municipal Code Chapter 7.58.
Thank you for the staff report. I am going to now move to public testimony. Nobody's signed up. Is there anyone that is in the audience that would wish to testify? All right. I take it you don't have any response to any testimony. And I will close the public hearing. Council discussion and consideration of ordinance number 19-19.
Mr. Mayor? So questions now, right?
Councilor Newton. Yeah.
I just had one really quick one, just for clarification. So the ordinance would remove the prohibition of camping on all city property, correct?
Correct.
Any property, Ferguson, City Hall, library, parks, anything. But that doesn't preclude the city from dealing with behavior that we find on our property that isn't appropriate.
Correct.
Right, like a private property owner can preclude people from trespassing on the property, but the city, since it's publicly owned, it's different. But if there's behavior on our property that is inappropriate, that doesn't preclude us from, like the exclusion portion, if somebody gets excluded from city property. That's a separate issue, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions or comments? Or a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 19-19.
Second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please read the number and title of the ordinance.
Ordinance number 19-19, An ordinance amending Tigard Municipal Code, Chapter 7.58, regarding rules of conduct on city property.
Any final discussion? All right, City Recorder, please conduct a roll call vote.
Mayor Snyder?
Yes.
Council President Goodhouse?
Yes.
Councilor Newton?
Yes.
Councilor Lube?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson?
All right, ordinance number 19-19 is adopted unanimously. Thank you. And we will move on to item number 8, which is a legislative public hearing considering amendments to Tigard Municipal Code 7.52 relating to park property rules. I will open the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to testify or offer testimony will be allowed to do so. There's a sign-up sheet that's now in my hands. We'll ask again if anyone in the audience wants to testify. City Attorney Rahala, staff report.
Good evening, Council. This is the second ordinance tonight related to conduct on city property. This one is specific to city park property. There are really three main changes to this ordinance. The first one is updating historical references. This code was first adopted in 1971, and much of it has not been touched since. So there are outdated references to things like milk wagons, hitching of horses, the 1970 Motor Vehicle Code, and others. So this will delete those references and update it to current language. Additionally, some of the unlawful conduct that was prohibited back in 1971 should not be prohibited, such as whistling or singing in a public restroom, wasting soap, or wasting toilet paper. They may not be good ideas, but they are not illegal. There are other references that just don't, we haven't found them to be needed in the code, such as a prohibition on hanging hammocks or torpedoes in parks.
Torpedoes? Like the weapon torpedo?
Right. Explosives are still prohibited, so don't get any ideas, but torpedoes, we are removing that reference. The second category of changes is redundancies. With the update and improvement to 7.58 that Council just approved, there are redundancies that are unnecessary in this section. So, for example, we don't need to expressly prohibit damaging a public drinking fountain, destroying park signs, destroying trash cans, because those are included under the general prohibition on destroying city property that is 7.58. The last section, and the more serious section, is adding a prohibition on camping in sensitive lands as defined by the Tigard Community Development Code. In reference to the case law that Commander McDonald mentioned, the city is no longer prohibiting camping on all city property. We have not enforced that since the Martin v. City of Boise case came out. However, that case did say that that municipalities may still enact general time, place, and manner prohibitions on camping. The city has determined that camping in sensitive lands has been problematic both from an environmental standpoint, health and human safety standpoint, wildlife protection, and others. So because of the sensitive nature of those lands, the cities need to protect them under state and federal law, and also the risk to persons experiencing homelessness who may be in a floodplain during a flood event. We are prohibiting camping in those areas. So that's a summary of the changes. Staff recommends adoption of this ordinance.
Any questions? Councilor Newton.
City Attorney Rahala, so my memory is that most of our parks close at dusk, correct?
So that is correct. However, that is also a code provision that is not uniformly enforced. We do not prohibit runners from running through parks at dusk or walkers, and so it creates an equal protection issue to enforce against camping but not enforce against runners and walkers.
My memory, and you have to correct me, is the reason was back in the day, in the 80s, when we talked about removing that requirement, a lot of our parks aren't well lit. So the issue became one of safety for people. So I would just wonder, not to discuss tonight, but as we move down the road, if there are people in the park and something happens, because it's not well lit, what does that do to the city's liability? So that would be the only concern I would have, is that if we're prohibiting certain people congregating in our parks, like high school kids or whatever, after dusk because they're not well lit, which might be the motivator for closing at dusk, I just would wonder how we deal with that moving forward. So that would just be something I thought about when I read that. So.
Is that a safety consideration that was considered by staff?
So not specifically in this ordinance. Our focus was on just limiting the time, place, and manner of camping, but that's certainly something that we can revisit.
Issue, we had some issues with high school kids congregating, especially down at Cook Park, and we had some things come up. And so we explicitly said the reason the parks are closed at dusk is because they're not well lit. Some of them are, probably well lit enough in certain areas, but Cook Park, way down in the park, is not very well lit at night. So.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? All right, we will move on to public testimony. Nobody signed up. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to testify? All right, I will close the public hearing. Council discussion and consideration of ordinance number 19-20.
I move to approve ordinance number 19-20.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please read the number and title of the ordinance.
Ordinance number 19-20, an ordinance amending Tigard Municipal Code, Chapter 7.52, regarding park property use.
All right, City Recorder, please conduct a roll call vote.
Mayor Snyder,
Yes?
Council President Goodhouse,
Yes.
Councilor Newton,
Yes.
Councilor Lube,
Yes.
Councilor Anderson.
Yes.
All right, ordinance number 19-20 is adopted unanimously. Thank you, staff, for that work. Let's move on to item number 9, legislative public hearing. Consider amendments to Tigard Municipal Code regarding residential parking. I will open the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to offer testimony will be allowed to do so. There was a sign-up sheet at the front of the room. No one has signed up. Commander McDonald and Sergeant Erickson, good to see you.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Again, my name is Jamie McDonald. I'm the commander in the police department.
And I'm Sergeant Lee Erickson from the Tigard Police Department.
We are here tonight to request City Council consider an amendment to the Tigard Municipal Code for residential parking zones. A review of the current code language identified several areas in need of being updated. As a result, you see before you a complete rewrite of the section concerning residential parking zones. Sergeant Erickson will take you through the history and the process that we have used.
So this started with a request earlier this year to be included in the current residential parking zones around the high school. And when we applied the current process, it failed. So we looked at the current process as it existed, and it goes back to the early 1990s and has remained largely unchanged since. And the biggest problem we found with it is that it requires unanimous consent of all the affected properties in order for a new zone to be added to the city. So we looked at what other cities are doing around us to try and figure out a better way to do it that's a more reasonable process. And what we're recommending tonight incorporates a lot of what other cities are doing that is definitely a more reasonable approach and a more fair and equitable approach. We had a public meeting in late August to present some of what our ideas were to the community. And based upon some input at that meeting and correspondences we received after the meeting, we've made a few changes to what we're presenting tonight.
So in the proposal that you see before you, we've incorporated citizen feedback wherever we possibly could, and it includes current best practices, as Sergeant Erickson mentioned. Provisions to make the establishment of a zone have been revised to be more reasonable than we have in the current code. And we also have grandfathered in any previously established zones within the proposed code changes. It
So
includes
current zones don't disappear.
Correct.
They just get new rules.
They would, yes, they would fall under the new proposed code with the current boundaries still in place.
Okay.
It includes what staff feels is the most equitable and legally defensible plan for the community. Staff recommends council adopt Tiger Municipal Code 10.30 as proposed.
All right, we'll move on to public testimony. Is there anyone in the public that would like to testify? All right, I will close the public hearing. Council questions, discussion, and consideration of ordinance number 19-21.
I have a
Councilor
question.
Newton.
Yeah. Just so people that are watching us at home, could you just explain briefly what those percentages are for the petition and the votes? Because those are different than what we have, and that might be helpful. So thank you. I think it was 66 and 70 or whatever.
So what we're recommending is, in order to start a process to review for a new parking zone, parking permitted zone, is a 60% of the affected properties sign the petition. And then we would look at what they're requesting, see the appropriate fixes to the problem, and then we would put it out for a vote, or we'd have a meeting, put it out for a vote, and then 70% of the votes need to be returned, 75% of those votes need to agree to the proposed plan.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilor Anderson, or comments?
Excuse me. So a lot of these problems are resulting from the construction at the high school, right? The kids are overflowing into the neighborhoods, right? So once that gets fixed and finalized, we may not need these zones. Is that correct?
There may not need to be additional zones. The ones that are historically in place in the area of the high school, I believe that those will continue to be necessary because of some of the proximities of those neighborhoods, literally across the street from the high school. Okay. And so those are grandfathered in under the proposed change. So those would remain the same.
And some of those zones existed before the construction, too.
Correct,
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
These zones have been in place since 1991. And so once the construction is done, we anticipate that some of the pressure that we've seen outside of what is the current residential zones will actually go away. But it provides these neighborhoods, one of which in particular may not see much of a change, but it provides them a more reasonable solution to try and get included in that zone.
Thank you. Council President Goodhouse.
I remember I was at that meeting and there was talk about making these zones right now around like high schools and stuff, but there's also talk about other neighborhoods. Is this only tackling the schools and areas like that, or is this also anywhere in Tiger if they want to create a parking zone? Because there was talks of like up around Schultz area where people that are near an apartment complex, people start parking in side streets. So is this only going to be for areas like around high schools, or is it going to be anywhere that someone wants to start that?
So specifically in the rewrite, we talk about non-residential impacts on residential neighborhoods. So it specifically is talking about those types of impacts. So that's if it's a neighborhood that's having issues with parking, it would need to be evaluated to determine what that impact is. And there's provisions in the code that will give guidance to how that evaluation process would occur, but it specifically talks about being non-residential impacts on residential neighborhoods is what we had here.
Okay, so right now there's not any really part that can be residential to residential. If there's a apartment complex where everyone's parking in side streets, then that would be a separate issue to address later.
If they're parking on a public street, then what we would need to use is another part of the municipal code to make sure that they're following whatever parking regulations we have, whether it's blocking crosswalks or driveways, parking in front of mailboxes or fire hydrants, things like that, where we would go to the specific set of the code where we would address the other parking issues surrounding those types of neighborhoods. And within this, one of the things that we've done is we've been able to do some evaluation of staffing within the police department, and we will put a person whose primary responsibility will be addressing the parking issues that have been popping up all over the city. And it is a variety of different parking issues. It isn't just the volume of traffic. It's people's concern about how people are parking and whether they're parking appropriately based on actual parking issues to abandoned vehicles, you name it. There's a variety of different things. And so we're going to do with this a change in how we apply our staff to address the parking issues in the city.
Okay, so based off that, that might be something we look at later, because I know that was a lot of people that were in that meeting had a huge concern about what can you do about when it's a residential due to apartments, so maybe we'll have to figure that out later or look and see how that comes.
Yeah, it's a challenging situation, and especially as probably our friends in community development could explain a little better. But as we increase in density, these are the types of things that we really have to try and balance. And so I think that the approach that we have in terms of trying to apply an enforcement angle more efficiently from the police department will help to alleviate some of those issues. The volume of vehicles in the neighborhood is going to be a challenge. It's going to be ongoing, I think, as we continue to grow as a city. So. But yeah, it absolutely is something that we could look at in having some level of being able to address it in the future.
Okay, great.
Councilor Lube?
I was also at the public meeting, and I think this parking situation has affected a lot of residents' quality of life. I can't imagine, one city I lived in, it was also a frustrating parking situation, and it kind of turns it into a place that you don't want to be, because it's really hard to not be able to park in front of your own home. And, there was a lot of resident frustration, and so I just want to commend you and the city for listening to the residents' concerns, to thoughtfully go through the process and include them when possible, and look at other cities and come forward with a thoughtful plan. This isn't going to fix everything, but I think it's a really great start to get us there. And one of the things I was most excited about is to see that because it is such a big issue for our residents, is to have a dedicated officer who's going to be taking a look at that and being able to sort of alleviate and answer a lot of those questions and hold some of those cars that are continuously doing this accountable. So thank you so much for your thought and for presenting this forward. And I think it's a great first step, and I think it's a much more reasonable way to create these zones.
Question from me is about communication plan. Is there a plan to communicate to current zone holders or zone residents and or some of the groups and individuals that have come to the meetings and expressed concerns? Has there been thought given to that on the communication side?
Yes, actually, we've discussed what it would look like because of there being a complete rewrite. It will require us to go back to the citizens that live in the current zones, and there's going to be some new protocols that they'll have to endure, I guess is probably a good way to put it, because the process that they've used since 1991 is going to look different than what will be implemented. And so that will be communicated once we move forward with this, and once we get our position for the person that will be doing the enforcement is actually going to be the one who will be responsible for primarily communicating the changes to the code. And it isn't going to be us just going out there immediately and doing enforcement with those citizens. It will be an education process, and then really ramp up that so that we can address the root of the problem, and then really have a robust parking program in place. Some of the other communities around that have parking programs that we looked at with this have some excellent examples of how they communicate to their citizens on these, and we'll probably use some of their ideas as we move forward.
So timing on that, I mean, this is probably in the top 2 or 3 things that I get calls about or have gotten calls about in the last 6 months. So I'm just curious about the timing, because I know I'll be answering more calls and questions about this.
So because we know that it's going to be a little more complex than some of the other things we bring forward, one of the things we asked for in the ordinance is to give us until February 1st to kind of get things in place before this new ordinance would, or before the code changes would take effect. That'll allow us to get the opportunity to get the new program in place and stood up, and then allow for the code to take effect. And then we can communicate that February 1st is when it would take effect. And with the holidays upon us and just the timing of trying to get a program like this going, it really takes us probably 2 months to be effective in getting that communication out and then getting the program off the ground.
Other questions or a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 19-21.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please read the number and title of the ordinance.
Ordinance number 19-21. An ordinance adopting Tigard Municipal Code, Chapter 10.30, related to residential parking zones.
Any further discussion? All right, City Recorder, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes.
Council President Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councilor Newton.
Yes.
Councilor Lube.
Yes.
Councilor Anderson.
Yes.
All right, ordinance number 19-21 is adopted unanimously. And I want to thank the staff for the hard work on this. I know that this was, I know there were hundreds of emails back and forth between residents and city staff, and a ton of work on your team's part and city management's part. So I want to thank everybody. This is not an easy situation, but it's an important livability one. So thank you. All right, let's move on to item. Consider amendment to Tigard Municipal Code to repeal 10.28.175. I will open the public hearing. Anyone that wants to offer testimony will be allowed to do so. There was a sign-up sheet that's now in my hands. No one's signed up. Commander McDonald, staff report.
Mr. Mayor, Council, yet again this evening. Jamie McDonald with the Police Department, Commander there. Based on the fact that Council just adopted the new residential parking zone amendment, we now need to repeal the old one, which is Tigard Municipal Code 10.28.175, so that the two are not in conflict with each other. Staff recommends that Council repeal Tigard Municipal Code 10.28.175, effective the same date that Tigard Municipal Code 10.30, one just passed, becomes effective.
All right, any questions? We'll move on to public testimony. Is there anyone in the public that would like to testify? All right, I will close the public hearing. Council discussion and consideration of ordinance number 19-22.
I move to approve ordinance number 19-22.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? City Recorder, please read the number and title of the ordinance.
Ordinance number 19-22. An ordinance repealing Tigard Municipal Code 10.28.175.
City Recorder, please conduct a roll call vote.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes.
Council President Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councilor Newton.
Yes.
Councilor Lube.
Yes.
Councilor Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 19-22 is adopted unanimously. Thank you. I know that wasn't quite as much work to repeal one, but thank you. All right, we will move on to item number 11, consider resolution adopting the Americans with Disabilities Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan. Director Robinson. I see we also have city engineer as well. Welcome.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I'm Amy Robinson, Social Services Director, and Fayette, the city engineer. We've been the project managers for the self-evaluation and transition plans project. And when we met with you last in August, we provided an update. We identified our next steps as getting input not only from you into the plan, but also from the community into the plan. And tonight, we've completed that step, and we've brought the final plan back to you. And if it meets for your approval, we're asking you to adopt the transition plan through a resolution. Just as a kind of brief update, what's the ADA? It's the Americans with Disability Act. It was signed into law in 1990. Title II requires local government agencies to make their facilities, programs, activities accessible to people with disabilities. We completed our first transition plan back in 1993. We've done some updating along the way, but this is really the first comprehensive review that we've done. So to help us with that project, we worked with a company called MIG, and they had the expertise and the time to do some of the really in-depth work that needed to be done as part of this. So they assessed our policies and our standards, as well as our programs and services to look for potential barriers. They conducted a staff questionnaire to get an idea about how all of the different departments were conducting their work and if they were aware of ADA and what their requirements were in responding to ADA requests. And then kind of the larger piece of the project that they headed up was assessing public spaces, so our city buildings, parks, rights of way, to identify potential barriers. And then another important step in this is that we developed an ADA focus group, and they have been with us at different parts of the project and looked at our plan. They've weighed into what we should prioritize for barrier removal. And then also in our final plan, they took a look at it just to say, was there anything that we missed? So our transition plan is really it's the detail, the data from this audit, that them going out and like measuring and looking at everything in the city public spaces for facilities, parks, trails, right away, and putting that into a format that we'll be able to look at more closely and prioritize for barrier removal. So, when we met with our focus group, and as I indicated, we'd be incorporating their feedback, these are some of the things that they really felt were important. They wanted us to make sure that if there's a city event that we're working with a third party with, and that we make sure that ADA accessibility is taken into consideration. We're required to do that. I think they felt like that's happened at varying levels, with varying levels of success, and we know that we can strengthen some of those things through better contract language, and if it's a big enough plan, asking them to make sure, that we're seeing how they're providing just kind of basic things like parking and restrooms that are accessible for people. They also want to make sure that our notices talk about reasonable accommodation, and if you look at our agendas, you see that we talk about accommodation. We just need to make sure that we're doing that with all of our public meetings and then having that information available. And then, of course, staff training is always important. That's how we get the word out. That's how we get people to just be aware of not only our obligation, but just as a philosophy of the city, that we want to be welcoming to everyone, and that includes making reasonable accommodations when we can. And some of those things can be pretty basic. It's like using captioning when we play films or our movies. Since we started this project, we've actually started adding captioning to some of our council meetings. So hopefully that still continues to be successful doing it that way. And then the other thing, and we've heard about this in different ways, is just making sure that we provide contact information in different ways. So it's not just, a phone number. It's something that someone can call you, they can email, and so that people that have different types of disabilities have different ways to get in contact. And then on the survey, we heard, first the survey was taken by a approximately 60 people. Some of them answered all the questions, some of them just answered a few. Obviously not scientific. But one thing that we found interesting in the process was that more people were interested in us fixing sidewalks or having sidewalks fixed than adding curb ramps. And like we recognize that curb ramps, we have an obligation when we do a certain level of street work that we're required to complete the curb ramp. But what I saw in a number of different types of comments were that for people, not just with disabilities, but just people with aging and those kinds of things, when you have sidewalks that are uneven or routes, somebody who's pushing a baby cart, riding bikes, that those obstacles apply to all different kinds of situations, and people think it's important that they're able to get around through the sidewalks. The survey also prioritized accessibility of travel paths, so when people are trying to get into a building, into a park, into an amenity at the park, that they have the ability to do that and do that easily. And then the last recommendation really was focus on one side. You know, like, it's easy to kind of take a scatter shot and say we're going to make sure we have all of this one thing fixed. But there were a couple of different people who said, you know, it doesn't make sense to fix one thing and then not fix the next. So great, thank you for fixing the parking lot, but if the travel path is not good when I get there, I'm still not going to be able to do something. You know, so it was an interesting concept to, as we look at it, to be able to take a little bit broader perspective and say, you know, with a few more dollars, could we make more things at one time accessible? So I thought it was good input. And then we talked about this previously, but moving the plan forward, you know, we're going to look for the things that can easily be resolved if they're maintenance tasks or if we can make programmatic modifications. We'll be able to start that in this, you know, first 1 to 3 years. We're developing an easy-to-use tracking tool. For us, it's got to be something that we can use across departments because the different types of things that we're trying to resolve really do cross different department lines. Developing staff training, we've heard it from our community, but it's also just a requirement through the ADA that people understand. And then creating an internal ADA team, and that again is just to keep that interdepartmental and cross-departmental communication and coordination going so that we're making sure that we're taking advantage of all the opportunities we can as they come up. And then also just developing that annual review that community gets to be part of the input. And if things change with time, if the community sees the need for barrier removal in an area maybe being a higher priority than what we're seeing it as, it gives us an opportunity to have a conversation on that. And then longer term, just building on that, we'll continue to work with the community for their input. We'll be providing annual updates to council, and along with that, posting those updates on our website. Staff training will be ongoing. Annually, you'll see budget requests, and they will also keep council apprised of what we're doing and what we're able to accomplish each year with funding. But for tonight, what we're asking, if the plan meets with your approval, that you approve it by resolution. And then if you have any questions before considering that, Lori and I are happy to answer those for you.
Questions? And wow, what a lot of work.
It's been a work.
I mean, thank you on behalf of the community.
Sure.
Do we have any questions from the council? Councilor Newton? Oh, you have a comment? All right, we'll move to comments.
Just one question.
Oh, Council President Goodhouse.
Just more for my knowledge and more for on the federal level when some of these things get done. What's kind of the estimated cost we see? I mean, obviously the infrastructure cost, but just what are some of the costs we can expect to see coming down the road for either staff or time or costs? And it's kind of on the spot, so I get
I'm I'm gonna let Lori take her.
That's
side
an
of
easy
things
one.
First.
No, it's not an easy one.
I know.
There are a lot of needs identified in the plan, and the plan will help us to prioritize and implement the solutions to all of the things. And when we go out and review every curb ramp and every sidewalk, we find problems with most of them. And so the question will be the priorities. As to costs, we have a number of things we're currently doing that help us in little bits to get there. So we currently do the pavement management program, and when we're overlaying a street, we replace any curb ramps that are out of compliance along with that. That, as a general rule, affects 20 or 30 curb ramps a year. As we're putting together the proposed capital improvement plan for next year and for years beyond, I anticipate us asking to add some funding to tackle some additional curb ramps in addition to that. A curb ramp replacement typically costs around $15,000, and there are a lot of curb ramps. So, and that's just one example. There are also a lot of parks needs. So that's parking lots, ramps, walkways, handles in restrooms. I mean, there's tiny things and there's large things. And we'll handle some of that with major maintenance programs that we already have in place. Hopefully we can tackle some of it that way. I know Nadine also has an annual budget for kind of the more minor, smaller repairs in our buildings. And so they're already starting to go after some of those repairs. But you will see us coming back to you and talking about an implementation plan and about needs that we will try to find ways to implement with existing projects, but we may need to be looking at some new programs.
Thank you. Okay. Other questions or comments? Councilor Newton?
Well, first of all, to echo the mayor, what a lot of hard work, and I appreciate all your efforts. Reading through the plan, one thing I noticed that I think is great is some of the low-hanging fruit, just people being able to access programs, being able to know how to contact somebody, more so than just, physical access to sidewalks. So it's multifaceted. Some of these things won't be difficult. Some of these things are going to cost a lot of money and will be difficult. The other thing that I like about the plan is the ability for the community to weigh in annually so that we can reprioritize or readjust as we think we need to, and also doing the annual review so we can tweak it as we need to. But it's very comprehensive and covers a lot more than I think people we think about when we think about accessibility. So thank you.
I think it connects to the strategic, our strategic plan and mission really around and our vision to be the most walkable community in the Pacific Northwest. We say that, but then there's a bunch of parts beyond that, and that is, about people living healthy and interconnected lives, all people of all abilities, and this is part of that. It's a critical piece to that. So, others? Councilor Luke?
I would just echo a lot of what has been set up here. Is when this plan came to us to begin with, it's so robust and it makes such a difference to so many community members' lives in order to access things that I think I certainly take for granted and don't think about it. And I think the community input is so valuable, again, to what you spoke of don't fix the same thing everywhere, focus on making one area or one park accessible. And it's just, the community input is so valuable, and so I'm excited to see that it's a regular occurrence, just to continue to check in. So thank you so much for all of your work and for what you're doing for our community.
Is there a motion?
I got a motion. I move to approve resolution number 19-45.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution 19-45, a resolution adopting the City of Tigard Americans with Disabilities Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution number 19-45 is adopted unanimously.
I was going to make a quick comment. We may want to maybe think about changing our tagline rather than most walkable, maybe the most accessible city in the Northwest. Because it would include everyone getting around in any method.
All right, thank you. And we are going to convene the Tigard Town Center Development Agency for a moment. And we will receive an update on a new Tigard Triangle planning for equitable development implementation strategy discussion. Mr. Fairley.
Good evening, Board Chair Snyder and directors of the Town Center Development Agency. Tonight we're going to provide you with a briefing and an update on a new Tigard Triangle planning for equitable development. Which is a two-phase project. We've just finished phase one. We're going to talk about the results of that, and that is the Equitable Urban Renewal Implementation Strategy, which was in your packet. And that strategy has a phased action plan, prioritized budgeted list of urban renewal projects over time. And so tonight we're going to talk about an overview of the process, talk about the equitable evaluation criteria that were developed, review the results, and the phased project list. So what is equitable development? Well, it's a development strategy that ensures local residents and businesses have the opportunity to benefit from the area's economic transformation by dismantling barriers and expanding opportunities. In many cases in the past, in other urban renewal areas, urban renewal has resulted in large-scale displacement of the people and businesses who call the area home. So we'd like to see us implement our plans in a different way. So the Tigard Triangle Urban Renewal Plan, which was approved by voters in 2017, it's really just a list of projects. There's some estimates of urban renewal contributions, but they're not prioritized. There's 16 transportation projects, 5 utility projects, and a big broad bucket of fundings for public spaces and facilities, and also for redevelopment assistance and partnerships. So through this process, we want to prioritize these projects and how we can phase them over time as TIF is generated in the district, and we want to have equitable outcomes as a goal. So here we are on the project timeline. This is a Metro-funded grant. And I mentioned before, we've completed phase one. There was a lot of public involvement. I'll talk about that more in a minute. And so we're entering phase two. We're going to do some actual design of some top-ranked projects. And this is kind of the project process. Why don't I come back to that? So we did really significant community engagement with this project. We started off with 2 focus groups. One was a small group of racially diverse community members, and another was a group of small minority-owned businesses in Tigard. And the feedback from these focus groups helped us develop the equity-based criteria and investment priorities. We had 4 large-scale community events that were organized with the help of Unite Oregon. They were very well attended. Our first couple meetings had about 100 people. They trailed off a little for second 2, but we had really, good, robust conversations with the community, and it was really an open opportunity for input on equitable development in the Triangle. We did stakeholder interviews, so some small group and one-on-one interviews with Triangle property and business owners to help identify development opportunities and challenges and really understand the development potential of the area. And then there was a Town Center Advisory Commission subcommittee, which was a project-specific committee that had members of the TCAC along with some community leaders in the Southwest Corridor. And this group played a critical role in development of the criteria. And so a lot of our public outreach resulted in this these 7 equitable development criteria. And I'll run through them quickly, but so the criteria that we were going to judge and rank our urban renewal projects are asking, did the project support preservation and creation of affordable housing? Did it improve environmental conditions and build infrastructure capacity? Did it support development of a welcoming and safe public gathering spaces for every member of the broader community? Does it reduce residential and business displacement and prevent gentrification? Does it support the development of a healthy, safe, and sustainable regional destination known for its diversity of activity, people, and character? Does it support safe and effective multimodal transportation network that improves access and connectivity and supports mixed-use development and supports the most vulnerable users? And does it advance equitable economic opportunity through development assistance? Going back a couple slides here, this was the project process. So we developed these 7 evaluation criteria, and then we took a closer look at these urban renewal projects. We got more detail about the project costs. We looked at projects that might work well in sequence or complement each other. Then we were working with Leland Consulting on this project, and they evaluated these projects against this criteria. We developed the financial constraint, the budget, very detailed financial analysis, which is included in your packet, projecting TIF generation in the district over the next 35 plus years, and then looking at times when it would be good to borrow and how much, and so how can we fund these projects as we're going through time. And then basically using all these constraints, the criteria, and kind of weighting some of that criteria, they used a model to score these projects and develop the optimized project portfolio, also known as the phase investment strategy. And so this is the phase investment strategy, taking all the projects that are in the urban renewal plan and making a recommendation about how we phase them. Again, very dependent on how did these projects advance equity, and at what point can we pay for these projects. So I'll just focus on the first 5 years, the near term. So the projects that came up highly ranked and being affordable the first 5 years. Atlanta Street, phase 1 of that. Highway 99W Modified Street, and that's be a small amount of money that could help fund larger, maybe regional efforts that are going on. Park investments are ranked very highly on all counts. Affordable housing investments, also ranking very highly. Opportunistic improvements is kind of a term for things like facade improvement grants and loans and development assistance. And then 72nd Avenue Modified Street. Phase 1 of that, which is north of Dartmouth. And then also doing a transportation study. So some of the key findings and recommendations that are included in the strategy report. We should continue to update the plan because with all the planning we do, we can't always foresee opportunities that arise. We need to be strategic as well as being opportunistic. We should continue to engage the community and build leadership in the community. We should coordinate with TriMet and ODOT. TriMet, of course, because light rail may be coming through the triangle. And ODOT because of 99W. We're going to be producing development assistance guidelines, and we're going to market that to the development community. We need to identify outside funding sources because urban renewal, even though there's a large pot of money there, it can't pay for all these projects by itself. Should leverage existing upcoming regional projects. Invest early in affordable housing and parks. Scale up investments for those opportunistic improvements. And opportunistic improvements should also say could include like doing a street or a sewer for, if we know that a project is going to go in a certain area, we could help fund that, since those kind of infrastructure are important. So this is our implementation matrix, looking at the near-term projects, how we're going to be working on them over the next 5 years. And now I'll talk about phase 2. So we still have a significant amount of grant funding available, and we're actually going to be working with engineering and planning firm to do some design that will forward some of these high-ranking projects. So we're working on a concept plan for Atlanta Street and Southwest 70th Avenue, a new concept plan and design, and we'll be looking at that with and without light rail. Anticipate all possibilities. We'll be doing a park concept plan and maybe looking at some, we have one piece of property in mind, but we might also identify a few additional possible parks and plaza locations. We're going to do program development. We're going to come up with guidelines and marketing ideas on development assistance and then business assistance program. And then also included is development assistance for affordable housing and mixed-use projects that might come our way in the next couple of years. So back to the timeline again. One thing to add is that the TCAC at their September meeting, actually in September we met twice to really dig down into the report and its recommendations. And the TCAC endorsed this report. And that, they wrote a letter that's included in your packet. They also added that they really wanted staff and the development agency to prioritize land acquisition for parks, and also any land acquisition that needs to happen for road improvements, especially on 72nd Avenue. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you. That was very informative and robust. Who has questions? Councilor Newton?
Just an update, right? I think one of the important features is the leveraging and trying to take advantage of opportunities. And so the regular review of that and involving the different stakeholders will be critical there, right? Because things may adjust if a project comes up or something like that, you might want to move something around. Is that correct?
Right. We want to be strategic, but also opportunistic.
Right. Okay.
Strategically out.
So that's kind of built into the plan, right? Okay.
Councilor Anderson?
So do we have any money left from that parks bond that we can apply to this, or does that just have to be down? There was some downtown park money, right? If I remember correctly?
Right, that was specifically allocated for downtown.
Okay, so nothing for the triangle right now? Okay, thanks.
Anything further? Thank you for that great update.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And we will reconvene as the City Council and move on to our next agenda item, which is to receive an update on the performance audit implementation plan. Ms. Hendricks?
Good evening, Mayor Snyder and Council. Thanks for having me here tonight. I'm here to provide an overview of our performance audit implementation plan that was developed in response to our October 1st council meeting where Matrix Consulting came in to present some audit results from an internal city audit, and they produced 69 recommendations that were related to operational performance and then 58 performance measures that related to data-driven decision-making. And so we're going to go over tonight the implementation plan that is in response to that. So the purpose of the plan is to establish context and create guidance for implementing audit findings by incorporating staff knowledge to the matrix recommendations and measures. So what this entailed was in October and November, the city manager's office, I don't think I introduced myself formally. I am the senior management analyst, relatively new to the city of Tigard. I started on October 1st, and I'm in the city manager's office, so nice to meet you.
We're lucky to have you. We know that.
Thank you. So we identified and met with department teams that will be responsible for helping implement the recommendations and the measures. In these meetings, we reviewed and updated recommendation timeframes, priorities, and we added budget impacts / estimates and narratives. And the reason we did this is we wanted to factor in current staff capacity, projects that are currently taking up staff time, and just to kind of go over the final results. So it was a check-in, and we updated the information related to the recommendations. And then we also discussed the current state of the performance measures and provided narratives for those as well. So in the implementation plan, the bulk of it is a list of those recommendations and then the performance measures with the new narratives. And then outcomes from the implementation plan was that we established a balance of timeframes and priority levels to focus our resources effectively and manage the completion of those projects. So on the pie chart on the right-hand side, this is breaking out all of the recommendations and their priority levels, and you can see that there's a really even balance between high, medium, and low priority projects, so that, again, we can focus attention on the more urgent ones, as compared to the original matrix audit where instead of 30% low priority level, there were only 8% of recommendations that were low priority level. So there was a lot more that was identified as urgent, and we want to focus our attention on those on this version. So, and then we also identified a pipeline of upcoming projects. So we organized the recommendations by time frame first, and then by priority level, so that you can see what's coming up and what's of highest importance. And then the graph on the bottom right is the recommendations that we anticipate when they're going to be completed. So you can see that 12% of them we already have completed or plan to complete by the end of this month, which is really exciting. And then another thing to point out are the 25%, so it's a quarter of the recommendations, are ongoing. So these are things like my position working to help implement this plan. And then back to the 2019 one, an example of that would be changing the library hours, which took effect this month. So we also discussed and identified potential key performance indicators. So these are performance measures that are going to help share our story and solve problems that are really like 1 to 3 measures that really kind of get at the problems that we're trying to solve. So outline next steps to implement our audit findings. So
can you go back to that slide real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Before you advance. So there's the breakdown of the pie chart as far as priority level, but then there's the recommended level of the bars. So how can you relate that as far as where the priority level is when they're getting done by years? Is there any way that shows that interface? So we have 10% that are immediate needs, but then where do those 10% fall in that?
So in the implementation plan, the bulk of them are divided up by department, and then within that it shows first the year that it's going to be completed, and then the priority level. It's like immediate, high. So that's how they are balanced out, if I'm getting at your question.
Are you wondering if there's a summary slide that
Yeah,
shows
there's
that?
a summary slide, so I was just wondering
just
of that 12%, is there any way to kind of break that down of what
of what is immediate, high?
Immediate, high, medium, low? So
I don't have a chart, but I could definitely create one for you and follow up with that. But if you do look at, for example, Appendix A, it shows that in 2019 there are 4 immediate priorities.
Okay.
So you can kind of see it, but there's no visual.
Okay, it'd just be nice to have.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. As for next steps, so we're going to incorporate the recommendations and measures into department work plans for 2020 so that we can actually get into monitoring, tracking, reporting, and informing our actions, and we'll adjust or maintain our approaches to meet the targets that are identified in the measures. We also will continue to select the key performance indicators, so that's both internal and external. So those internal ones would be like information that maybe is more technical or more beneficial for just internal versus external, like what are people actually interested in seeing, and is easy to determine how the city's doing. And then lastly, we'll develop a dashboard of those performance indicators and incorporate measures into a city report card to keep the community informed. So with that, the action, I guess, for you is that just to review and provide any feedback on the implementation plan, and then we'll move on with our next steps. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions from the council or comments? Councilor Newton?
Well, this was great. I had fun reading it this afternoon. I enjoyed it. I'm thinking, though, when we go out to the public, I was trying to do it by high, medium, low, and things that the public might gravitate to. And I think it's important operationally that you do it by department. But when we're communicating a high level to the public, maybe by priority might be easier for them to grasp. Just a thought, because I found myself doing that in the review. And then the other thing I wanted to know is, as we move forward with budget preparation, will you be factoring this into the requests that go forward? So we have a clear idea that we're moving forward as appropriate on these performance audit recommendations.
So I believe by department, the most immediate recommendations that required a budget adjustment were already made.
But I'm talking about when we talk about the budget in May.
You're talking annual budget process.
Annual budget process.
Next year's budget.
When we go to the budget committee.
I'm going to refer to City Manager Wine.
Council, you'll hear next month when you meet jointly with the budget committee that the budget instructions that I've given to departments include if there are recommendations or requests that serve to implement a performance audit recommendation, that those requests can be part of next year's budget process. So the priority and the priority of recommendations you see here, you may see requests in the budget process to be able to fund these recommendations.
Last question. I had fun reading every detail. I'm not sure that every one of these recommendations is going to need to be reported regularly, but there were a couple of them where one of them was in the property management, the work order time, they're already exceeding the 80%. I'm not saying you want to bump it up to 90 just because there might be reasons that it sticks it to 80 because there's unique situations that come up all the time. I'm not suggesting those kinds of measures would come to the council and the public regularly, because some of these things are really operational. Right. But when those things do come out, if they do go out, I think some of those things might need more explanation.
Okay.
I would suggest maybe those are some of the things you don't need to report to the public because they're really operationally internally. But I found a couple of them where I was asking myself that question, and I thought to myself, that's operational, you might not really need to know, but right. Just a thought. They were hard to understand why that choice was made. So, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've hit the ground running, I think, or speeding. Councilor Lube, anything? Councilor Anderson? Council President Cadenas? Awesome. Thank you very much. And to the whole staff, I mean, I know this is another topic that's been a ton of work on many people's parts, and you get to report on it and collate it and act as cheerleader, I'm sure, and counsel them probably. Anyway, thank you very
Sorry.
much. No, that's okay. All right, we will move on to item number 14, consider resolution aligning public works fees and charges. Mr. Goodrich.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. For the record, my name is John Goodrich, Executive Manager, Public Works Department. So the department's requesting council to consider approve amending the master fees and charges schedule so that the effective date for fees and charges for each year time. Back in January and February, we met with council a couple of times to provide some information having to do with some work that the department's been doing in order to have a more holistic approach about the 5 services that we provide and how the rates and revenues are evaluated under review and cost of service analysis, etc. So the action that we're asking council to take tonight as far as amending the fees and charges will help us towards that objective. The effective date for water rates and the effective date for the street maintenance fee is January 1, 2020. We felt this would be a good opportunity to come to council prior to that date and make this request so that the effective date for those 2 items would occur in July 1, 2020. There is an impact to both revenue streams. We've provided an estimate of about $450,000 total. Most of those monies are coming out of the water fund, and I'm happy to report that the water fund currently has a fairly robust balance, and so we feel that we can basically absorb the revenue that we would not get by having 6 more months of the revenue. So the council also had the option of denying the request or perhaps not adopting the amendment. In that case, the staff is prepared to go ahead and move forward with public communications for the January 1st, and that would occur tomorrow. So we would, we're ready to go in case council makes a decision that they do not wish to amend the fees and charges schedule. So with that, I can take any questions.
Questions? Councilor Newton?
The AIS says increases that would normally be planned for January 1st, 2021.
So that was a suggestion by staff. So what the department's trying to do is align all the fees and charges scheduled for July 1.
Right,
date.
but you mean the planned increases that would normally be planned for January 1st, 2020?
That's correct.
Okay.
But in fiscal 2021.
Okay, I was confused. I understand what you're saying now. Thank you.
Yeah. So and then if the amendment isn't adopted tonight, we would ask council to consider whether the fees and charges for January 1, 2021 would occur perhaps in July, so it would be 6 months earlier.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Council President Goodhouse?
So if I'm understanding correctly, so would there be a reduction then on the utility fee, or if we were not collecting as much, would users see a dip and then it go back up, or
It just wouldn't increase as fast.
So it just wouldn't increase? Okay, so it would increase.
So we just basically wouldn't be raising rates in January. The rates would be increasing by 3.25% in July, but we would have a loss then of the revenue between January 1 and June 30th.
If we delayed it a year, would there not be a loss? Would there be a way to implement this the following, or rather than doing it the next January, to do it this July in reverse? Would there be a way to do it without having to impact?
We would then be increasing the rates ahead of time than normal. The department's getting ready to move forward with a water rate cost of service analysis over the next 6 months. We're hoping to complete that project prior to the end of the budget cycle and that council would have the opportunity to review the findings and adopt any changes to the rates prior to July 1, 2020.
You're just trying to get this on a coordinated cycle, and at some point you have to do that, or you're not going to be coordinated.
Okay.
From a staff perspective, I think this is really important, only in that our utility billing, our finance staff, and our public works staff all have to work together as these rate increases occur, as far as public communications, getting the information out to the public. I think also in January and February, what we were hearing from council was that the holistic approach of understanding what the impacts of all 5 types of services that we provide and how those rates impact our citizens on a total or combined billing, that those were important things that council would have before them to get a better understanding of what those impacts are.
Councilor Luke?
I appreciate you bringing this forward, because we did discuss the fact that we felt, or at least I felt like potentially we were nickel and diming them throughout the year without seeing the holistic of what the change is going to be. So I do like the idea of go ahead and doing everything on July 1st all at the same time and looking at it together. You indicated that the water fund is robust and doing fine, and us delaying this would cost about $450,000. Do you see any potential negative impacts? Does it concern you, or is there anything we might miss out on doing because we don't have these funds?
At this time, no. I don't believe that we have any specific impact. Again, I would relate that last year the water fund brought in approximately $2.4 million more than what was forecasted in the budget. So we have a fairly robust fund, and felt that this was a good opportunity at this point in time, because of that, to go ahead and move forward.
Good timing.
It's kind of like a temporary, and it's not really a rate reduction, but kind of, it's a prevention of a rate from increasing sooner, and that's a way to return money to ratepayers a little bit.
Can you
think of it that way?
Can you clarify, since you said there's that extra 2.4 million, can you kind of talk about what that's used for and why that reserve's good to have?
So the water utility business is quite complicated, and it can be an expensive business. I think last week we heard about an 8-inch water main break that occurred. It was unfortunate. It's not something that we can really plan for. It's not like our staff can have a crystal ball that says, oh, by the way, in another week, an 8-inch water main break is going to occur on Greenfield, and we probably should do something about it. Because of that, it means that we need to make sure that we have proper reserves, both from a financial standpoint of being able to absorb emergencies such as that. We also have a fiduciary duty to our bondholders to make sure that we have a fund balance that meets all the requirements and covenants of our bond as such. So these are all the reasons why we have a fairly strong financial position at this point in time.
I was just more wanting for the record, so that way ratepayers don't think, oh, there's this an excess that's going in. And can you just comment on how much that project may cost, that water break, just so people kind of know where something that could happen and why it's good to have a surplus?
So currently the emergency project cost estimate is $500,511.
Okay. Thank you.
The only other thing that I have to add is the Water Advisory Board did make a motion and approve making a recommendation to council. They did so in October during their regular meeting, and so they're also providing a recommendation to council to move forward.
So they're in agreement with this?
That's correct.
Okay. With your recommendation. All right. Any further questions or discussion? City Attorney?
Council, I just wish to clarify that you have passed out in front of you a revised copy of the resolution. There were some incorrect citations in the resolution that's in your packet, so we would ask that you would adopt if you're inclined, the resolution that was just handed out to you.
And the one that was just handed out should be titled 19-46, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Further questions or comments? Or a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 19-46, which is the updated version that was handed out.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? City Recorder, please read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution 19-46, a resolution amending the master fees and charges for water utility and street maintenance service.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution 19-46 is adopted unanimously. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a pleasant evening.
All right, we have no executive sessions scheduled. We have no non-agenda items. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Yeah, how did this happen? Seven. I'm like, what happened to the time? How, you know?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, we're done early.
I mean, I would rather that people be more conservative in the time that they're setting aside than
Yeah.
less. And so
Yeah, I think maybe,
we thought that they would discuss more.
I think we thought there might even be people for residential parking, you know, coming to
Yeah, I
testify.
mean, I think we were thinking that they might go through more thoroughly the design of the program, and,
Yeah.
or there might be more questions. And we also anticipated that there would be like people here who would want to talk about it. So
Yes.
it's okay.
Okay.
It has a reference to an ordinance in it. Yeah, sure, happy to.
So the one that, so we correct the one for the 10th. And then I'm thinking, did I dream that there's another one? And then like, and here comes this other one. It's like, oh, there is one tonight.